Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going down to an African shop on 47th Street, and I saw the police cars. I used to live down there, a couple of blocks from his crib. And I saw where the police were assembled, and they had 47th Street all blocked off. That's how they do it. They come from Lakeshore Drive, and they take a little route right around Duckwood Lawn right to his crib. So I get off the bus, and I remarked to the bus driver, I said, Obama must be at the crib. He said, yeah, he's at the crib. So I get off the bus, and I walk over to the shop, and everybody in the different shops along 47th Street, they were standing outside waiting to see the caravan of his limousine motorcade pass by.
That's impressive.
I said, Obama must be here. It was, yeah, we want to see him. We want to see him. Now, you Negroes know y'all ain't going to see him. You know, it was absolutely amazing to me that Obama's in town. Now, I asked one of the African brothers standing there, I asked him, I said, well, why is he in town? He says, well, he's in town, first of all, to go to the Cubs game. No, he ain't in town for that. He's in town because Hillary is in town. And he's raising money for Billary. That's why he's in town. And you know what? When I saw this banner right here, Black is Back, Self-Determination Convention, isn't that how she look all the time?
It is.
She be looking like that all the time. If she ain't looking like that, she grinning. She got a real sardonic grin on her face. Every time you see her on TV or in the media, she like, I'm going to get y'all when I get in there. And you ain't got no choice between either him or her. Nope. None whatsoever.
That's right.
I mean, look at him. Yeah, no, that's a classic. We got to keep that poster. I want that poster at the crib. Hey, well, listen. We've got several things happening. We've got some coffee over here, so indulge yourself. We also have the Burning Spear newspaper. The Burning Spear is a beautiful newspaper. You open it up, it's an authentic African newspaper. And the editing is great, the news in it is great, the graphics in it is great. Maybe I'm just a little prejudiced, huh? But it's an absolutely wonderful organ. So we got some over there. And we want everybody to sign the guest list and to take your package to see what's going on because you're going to follow along here. Besides this being a convention, this is an organizing event today. We're organizing today. And also, we're calling on you to talk to your family, talk to your friends about what's going on here. Some of y'all be at the crib and folks don't even know what you're doing, you know, but you need to talk to everybody that you know about Black is Back. Kalambaye, come on up. This sister, she literally, give her a round of applause because this sister, the president of NPDM, literally came out of Ferguson, Missouri.
That's right. And
came straight into the movement. How grassroots can you be? And she's come in to do a job. The chairman, Omali Yesatella, first of all, we need to give him some praise. We need to give him some praise. Leading theoretician that is undervalued and underappreciated by the broader African community. We need to give him much appreciation today for his insight, his foresight, being able to see some things, especially with Black is Back, to galvanize all these different organizations, which these organizations have different agendas. But as far as self-determination goes, that's why we're here. Kalambaye and today.
Uhuru! Uhuru! Uhuru is a Swahili word. It means freedom. And so that's why we greet each other with uhuru, because it constantly should be on our brains, freedom. And it's the last thing that we say to each other when we depart is uhuru. And that's what we should be thinking about when we lay down and go to sleep. So that's what we, uhuru. I love uhuru because it means everything I want it to mean.
Right.
What's up? It's hey. What's going on? What's next? Uhuru. So I just want to first and foremost appreciate everybody who's here, and I want to acknowledge Cam Howard. He is part of the steering committee of the Black is Back.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to acknowledge Cam Howard in our presence, and he'll be doing a presentation later. And I'm here to give like a brief summation of the Black is Back. And so my name is Kalumbai, and I'm from St. Louis, Ferguson, and I am the president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And when I was in Ferguson, after my grand was murdered in the street on August 9th, just searching for answers and being out in the trenches with so many different organizations and a lot of different things, I went home and cried myself to sleep a lot of times because nothing made sense to me. And everything that I was seeing happening out there with organizers just didn't speak to like really explaining or summing up what was really happening with African people. So I have a great appreciation for Black is Back Coalition because the first time that I ever left St. Louis on any political trip was to BIB, going to the march on White House, November 5th and 6th. I believe it probably was the same date every year. And that was my first introduction to political life, and I really, it was the first time I thought that they knew what they were doing, and they put me in a van with Cam Howard, and he gave me political education the whole trip there, explaining it. Everything I would say, all the problems or everything that I ever experienced in life, he just kept saying, colonialism, and, you just have to understand. And I was like, no, for everything, to the point that it really made me internalize being a colonized person. And I have a real appreciation for the Black is Back Coalition because we understand the Black is Back is a coalition of all different organizations. And all these organizations united on the certain principles around Black community control of the police, and it's in your packet. So I won't go through all of them, but you can look at the different things because we are calling on everybody here to really, participate in the coalition because I'm part of EPDM and I'm the international president, and so I recruit and build EPDM. But it's that I understand that everybody won't join EPDM, but you can join a coalition if you're really serious about real solutions to the African problem. Because we have a lot of different organizers, a lot of different people that fight for freedom in different ways. We have reparations. We have the prison. What's it called?
Political prisoners.
Yeah, political prisoners, and different things. And we have the African People's Socialist Party, PDUM. We have Kerry Ball Foundation. We have the African People, Zaki Baruti, organizations. A lot of different organizations. And all of these organizations are doing something on the ground to fight for liberation. But we have to unite because it's time to unite. And so we have to have some way for us to come into a room and struggle to say what it is, how are we going to push to change society and to fight for the liberation of all colonized people and African people.
That's right.
Okay? And so it's a way, the coalition is a way for all the organizations to come together and to unite and then to fight together because it is time for us to unite.
Yes.
And it's a way for us to see the infiltrators because there's some people that say that they're fighting for the liberation of African people, but really they're getting on our backs. And they're not trying to liberate us. Okay, so we need something solid. Some way that we won't be bamboozled. Some way that we make sure that we're not just giving a couple of Negroes a good job.
Right.
But we really saying a way for all of us can really see, taste, and feel self-determination to define these words for ourselves. And so the Black is Back Coalition is that.
Yes.
It is a very important. So what we're doing here today is very important to our liberation. And so that's my little summation of the Black is Back Coalition. and how important it is to have a coalition method.
Right.
What is the way forward? We can march, protest, and all these things, but to what end? So we're talking about real solutions here. So please, we want to hear your comments. We want to hear, it's going to be question and answer in parts. So please keep your ears open, listen, and raise anything that you think that need to be raised, because your opinion is important. Each one of us in here is important. We are a body of people, and we can make the world not only a better place, but somewhere that people are really truly free, and we won't have to continue to see the unjust happening to one group of people.
That's right.
For the benefit for another group of people.
That's right.
We want to even free white people
That's
and
right.
liberating African people.
That's right. All right, y'all. You know what? Let me have one of those right there. Thank you. If you have our convention program here, you know, this is live. So sometimes when you're live, you have to do some adjustments. You have to improvise. I'm from the jazz world, and that's what they do in the jazz world. They just move. You know what I'm saying? They just move right on with it. Now, for some of you, comrades, brothers, sisters, and others, if you thought you were going to come here and hear lift every voice and sing, well, no. No, I used to hate that song, lift every voice and sing. You know, I'm telling you Africans this because you really need to lift every fist and swing. You did? Okay? Because... And we don't like to use terms like the West Side and the South Side, like they're dividing Africans, okay? We're the same Africans all over the world. African internationalism teaches us that. We're not divided by borders, okay? Imposed borders by the colonialists, not at all. So over there on the West Side, you got Austin, Lawndale, and it reflects the very same thing that's going on here. Okay, to our program. We were to have a cultural presentation from Dawee. Is Dawee here? Dawee, come on up there, brother. Come on up here. Yeah, he don't need no microphone.
Oh, that's what I ain't got no stand for.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'll put it right. I don't need them.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first part I'm going to do is called The Invisible Man. And I wrote it for Brother Ralph. Y'all know that is, right?
Come on, tell us.
Ralph Ellison.
Oh, that's right. The one who wrote Invisible Man.
He wrote a book. Great book. I am the invisible man. Not science fiction. And certainly not of H.G. Wells' imagination. But fact.
Yeah.
Transparent blackness with quite abstractions of reality. A vibrant, live, meaningful energy.
Yeah.
With hopeless aspirations. Yes, I am the invisible man surviving centuries of indifference and human denial.
That's right.
Stairways into live exploding nightmares. Visible repercussions of white kind's scheme dream for supremacy as I attack to rearrange a fucked up mentality.
Yeah, come on.
Yes, I am the invisible man tangled in a deadly drain game of mental gymnastics. An expendable, usable, reusable, statistical test tube soul of the 20th century search for Godology, and all for the visible benefit, improvement, and propagation of white kind. Yes, I am the invisible man, scholar, athlete supreme, with visible expectations of reaching for more than invisible dreams.
Yes.
Because you see, whatever towering heights I sought to attain, they're simply invisible gifts of my visible pain.
Come on, come on.
Yes, I am the invisible man from the womb to the tomb, saturated with gloom and doom, clever ideologies, for the destruction of this black invisibility, designed for the destruction of black self-esteem, and to keep us out of the visible scheme of things, to take us to an assimilation or annihilation, and siphon that black power to the white nation. Yes, I am the invisible man whose visible reality now threatens the white folks' invisible reality. Yes, I am the invisible man, and you see, I'm mad as hell, because I am the root. I am the root from which all human life is sprung. Yeah. And yet I remain firmly entrenched on the bottom rung. You see, my invisibility confirms my right to be, you see, because even his story, even his story, even history hails and proclaims this black-skinned, nappy-headed, big-nosed, big-lipped man from the womb of Mother Africa as the father of the human race. And you know it.
Ah! Come on, bro.
This next piece is, I'm going to do one more of this. This next piece is for Trayvon.
Uh-oh.
It does not surprise me, nor does it infuriate me. Over years of observing and still observing, I have come to understand why Lady Justice wears the blindfold with a sword in one hand and scale in the other. Symbolic for what? Not impartiality. You see, the blindfold allows her not to see the injustice to just us. Blindfold allows her not to see the scales that balance the truth of laws that is unyielding and infinite, nor can she see the sword of truth that cuts straight through the truth of laws that reveals light. Is that what imagery means? And to whom? How can it be a court of law when law is truth, universal, irreversible, immutable, unchangeable, and flows with the natural order of things ingrained in all that exists?
That's right.
With law, there is no overrule or sustain. No, the jury will disregard those remarks. No, that is inadmissible due to a technicality in the court of law. No, strike that for the record. Or we always hear the law has changed, or that law has been amended, or that law has been taken off the book. It does not happen to natural law.
That's right.
If I'm in the law of gravity and go up, will I never come down? You see, law is truth without debate. Without a parachute, terminal velocity will bring you black to the truth. You see, a court of rules is what they should be called. You see, rules are made by those who rule, therefore subject to change by the rulers depending on whose nuts are about to be castrated, or simply put, how big is your bankroll? Uh-oh. You see, history has documented the treatment of poor people, especially black folk, in a court of rules. From never having juries of their peers to outright sit down and shut the fuck up.
That's right.
You see, he who has to go rules. But back to Zimmerman. And this is my take. Well, simply a little simple, silly ass Hispanic showing whites, yeah, I can kill a nigga and get away with it.
Right.
A confused wannabe skinhead, shit, my daddy judge, so let the games begin. So, with strategies implemented, they jostle. Each side being the right side. Murder or self-defense, compared to what? Getting justice at what price? Glory. Observation has also shown me the very existence of the rich depends upon the manipulation of their rules, whose purpose is to deny us the most basic of rights, the right to be human. We will rally around his death. We will protest, sing sorrowful songs, and it will become a fading memory as new atrocities will continue to stalk as we continue to rally. Who won? Trayvon is dead and free. Zimmerman is alive, dead, and suffering real life to the taking of one's life just because it's a hell of a burden to bear. May guilt whoop your ass. And as Walter Cronkite would say, that's the way it is.
Don Weed. Boy, Don Weed, man. You got one more? Come on, spit, bro.
This is called a catchy phrase. And if you listen to it, I'm really saying it really matters, but I ain't the point saying it don't matter. So you have to really listen. Black lives matter. White lives matter. Shit, all lives matter. This is the new universal catch-all phrase that attempts to level the playing field of discrimination. As white folk, regardless of social, political, or racial affiliations, all scream that their lives also matter. And you know, truth is light. A slick movement of the universal chant that all lives matter, rendering black lives matter into a mute fucking point. Once again, they attempt to absorb our pain as if they understand or cared about what was below the surface of true oppression. A wicked happening, deceit at its best. But this gift of life, this treasure, this miracle of experiencing the electricity of living, igniting the five senses to a frenzy of building the basic civilization, this gift is more than special. It is something that moves with unlimited energy of love. With this gift, we will live, we will see generations come and grow, and will love them with the passions of passions, and with time we will wither and fade away into the distant memories of love that is everlasting. But our genes, through our children, will live forever, as we will continue to witness the beauty of creation, the beauty of life. This is the ultimate gift of life. It's immortality, and the continuum of us that will always be us. And now mankind evolving into an energy that charges the negative coldness in his heart, where life becomes numbers entrenched in, do the math, from 0 to 9, perfection without the human factor. You see, man has moved from the mundane robots to the same madness of androids, cyborgs, artificial life, artificial intelligence, racing with speed of greed. Technology pushes technology, moving it like expanding light as man strives for perfection of all he invents. And in his search for perfection, he loses his warmth for humanity, the emotion that separates man from beast. We have set foot on the moon. We have lived and now living in outer space, married to space travel, over about the cameras and sensors to Mars and beyond. Then how come in the fuck we can't get along? We're the most sophisticated, intellectual, evolved being on the planet. Then how come we can't get fucking along?
No.
The chant should have been, black lives don't matter, unless they is making cheddar for the white folks. The news media dictates the thoughts of the masses by reporting the truth of lies. With its overuses on the media, groups popping up from everywhere and nowhere screaming Black Lives Matter, while corrupt officers of the law profile, arrest, beat, shoot, and kill black folks like trophies on a hunt. Camera on, camera off, witness or not, it don't make no difference, because to them, black lives don't matter.
Right.
It's their life's blood, and the judicial system 7 out of 10 times will rule in their favor. Strip them of their police powers. What the fuck does that mean? Send them bitches home without pay, or does the union protect them? Innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. And you know shadows always blend in. Yeah. We keep screaming and screaming and screaming Black Lives Matter, and they keep showing us and saying to us, who gives a fuck? Shit, y'all niggas killing each other.
Right.
To the uninformed, and to the uninformed, I stay. Probably a lot less than you white motherfuckers killing each other. So it just don't get reported. See, inside the game before the shit, sale and stealing fear in the hearts of darkness. It is evolved into a slick, sophisticated art of killing that most of us never see coming. It is called auto self-destruction. Black lives don't matter when civil disobedience runs amok. Black lives matter when numbers are needed for social programs that allow the fat cats to get fatter, as programs are simply make-believe changes. Black lives matter when Mr. Charlie reaches for the golden fleece as we become tools of implementation, dependable and expendable. The news reports what it never reports. When we are murdered by corrupt officers of the law enforcement, most times we are painted as the aggressor. And most times it's a lie, and the news media does what it do. Where? The debate of a clip of 16 bullets. Where's the debate? Where's the debate? 16 bullets as he walks away from a corrupt officer of the law posing no threat. Let's be real. As long as people on all sides of the fence continue to teach their children the art of hate and racism, continue to deny the reality of black is the damn beginnings, things will never change but remain the same, because black lives don't matter. World.
Wow. And just this past week, I found this article that'll really blow your mind. Corrupt Chicago police were taxing the drug dealers and targeting their rivals. Why not do we know of their tricks? Okay, now, what they was doing is these police, we got to watch them.
That's right.
Okay? Because what they was doing was, they was giving the guns, this article details it, they was giving the guns to the gangbangers. One group of gangbangers over there, giving them guns and drugs. Okay, they shoot at the other gangbangers, they get the money from them, arrest them, put them in jail, get the other corrupt cops to bail them out of jail with their own money. It's going on right here in Chicago. So, and it went on for years, still going on. So black power matters. Our president, Kalambay, will be up right now. Come on up here. And she will,
So the next part is just we're going to hear some testimonies and some experiences from various different people that speaks to the 19 points that we're going to go over that the coalition is calling on everyone to unite with and understand that these are our demands. So I'm the first person. We had Dorothy Holmes, the mother of Ronnie Johnson, that was
Ronnie
murdered
Man.
by Ronnie Man. She's not here yet, or I don't know if she's gonna make it. So, I'm going to talk about my experience, and I'm not from Chicago, but as you listen to my story, I'm sure it will connect with every story, because simply these things happen no matter where we are.
That's right.
So I'm speaking about horizontal violence. We hear it a lot, and horizontal violence is what they call black-on-black violence, and we say it's horizontal. My brother was killed in 1995. And another one of my brothers was killed in 1997. And my oldest nephew of my brother that was killed in 97, his oldest son was in my custody, got him through high school, graduated 2 weeks after he graduated from high school, was playing basketball, and they had put some money on the game, and someone felt like they were cheating because they put money on the game, and he lost his life as well. So I think that when we talk about horizontal violence, I think I can speak on this subject because, which it don't matter if we had one parent or two parents or however it was, but we grew up in the same household with the same father, same mother that dragged us to church, grew up Church and God in Christ. My mom is an evangelist, and throughout, as far as I can go in my history of my family, is evangelists, pastors, and preachers. That's the way we were raised. My dad taught Sunday school, went to Vietnam, came back with a habit. And he went back and forth from treatment to back on the streets, treatment to back on the streets. That's what, in the church would say, backsliding. But my dad was a great Sunday school teacher, was very involved in my brother's life. And I'm saying all this to paint a picture of who I am and what kind of family I came from. And so when my brother was murdered, I was angry, like most people. Don't matter who killed your loved one, you angry. You angry that you don't get to say hi anymore. You don't get to see them no more.
That's right.
You don't get to smell their boo-boo after they go to the bathroom. The littlest things you think about how that person had left your life. And so I was hurt. And my brother, who was killed in 1997, was murdered by a white person, just a white man, and he was shot in the back. He was shot one time in the back, and my brother didn't have a gun on him, no gunpowder in his hand. He went to the house of the white man because he was seeing his daughter. He was young, and he had a black girlfriend that he was serious about, that he brought around. We didn't know nothing about this white girl until he was murdered. But my brother was the type, he was a man that he didn't want to see any woman being taken advantage of or mistreated. So he got a phone call from the girl that he was seeing that told him that her father was fighting her and, telling her that he was going to lock her in the house until she get this out of her system of wanting to date a black man. And my brother didn't like to hear that, her dad was beating on her. So he asked another one of his friends to take him to the house and to tell the man, like, listen, I'm in college, I'm a good black boy. I'm going to graduate from the university in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to continue my education. He never sold drugs or anything. He was opposite from his brothers. And he wanted to show her father that, hey, you don't have to be afraid of me because I'm a good black man. And her father didn't want to hear anything from my brother. He came out the house, and witness said that, he had a gun in his hand when he came to the door. And my brother seen the gun. He didn't try to talk to him anymore. He seen the gun, and he knew that he didn't come to a gunfight prepared. So he turned around to go back to the car, and he shot him in the back. And I sat in the courtroom 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times for them to come back and say not guilty. And the person that went in handcuffs and ended up getting arrested was my father, when he just simply not charged this man, but he said, why? Cried out, yelled from the top of his lungs and fell to his knees. That his junior, his oldest born, his junior murderer was celebrating, and the family was embracing them with hugs, and he fell to his knees and cried out, and they gave him contempt of court and arrested him. And as a young person, at the time, I was 16 years old. I was confused because I was in school and I was learning, I went to government class and I'm learning about America, I'm learning about the system, and I don't understand how this didn't pan out. I didn't understand how the judge didn't understand that the jury was biased. At 16 years old, I'm looking at the juries and I'm seeing that these are not jurors of the peers. I seen a group of people that had already came to a conclusion because they seen somebody in their community. They seen somebody that they love and they understood it and seen it in that way. And if I could see this, then why can't he see that these jurors they are biased already? And I didn't understand why the judge was allowing this lawyer to do this flow show and say these things. And why did they decide that the gun that shot and killed my brother wasn't registered to this man? It was an illegal gun. How did they get to separate, put it all together? So once they said not guilty, they don't even have to charge him with the gun. Like, how do these things work?
Right.
But this is the same courtroom in 1992 when my brother was shot by police and had a piece of crack no bigger than this, a dime that you get $10 for. So it's a really small piece of crack. He's in jail and doing 25 years to life. So how did the same courtroom that found the 17-year-old and charge him as an adult and put him in a prison with grown men where he gets raped in jail and have to live with that he never tried drugs before, end up on something real harsh to just try to escape what happened to him? How did this same thing turn it back on us? How did the person that killed my brother, the black person that killed my brother and my nephew, no one ever lift a finger and try to do anything? So when I talk about horizontal violence, I understand that I have to talk about colonialism.
Yeah.
I have to talk about that everything that happened in our community is placed in our community.
That's right.
And we must understand that. And I don't care how much fasting my mom was doing, because she fasts. And I never, ever in my life to today, and I'm 36 years old, have ever heard my mom cuss, wear pants, and she did everything that she felt that was righteous to do. But the thing is we have to teach our kids the truth. And the truth is that we colonize, and regardless, and I'm not telling people not to pray, because I am grateful that my mom is a praying woman.
Yeah.
But beyond praying, I believe in the book of James, it says faith without works is dead. We can't believe in making the system better unless we are righteous and fight for the unjust that is happening to it.
That's right.
A perfect God could not kiss America and bless it when it's filled with blood and genocide.
Come on.
So when we talk about horizontal violence, we must understand that the only way that we can stop horizontal violence is when black people have power. Power. So I say black power matters.
Black power.
I say black power matters. And I say that we need black community control of the police. Because only then that we will have police in our community that is getting things out of our community that we don't want there. Police that we hired, we fired. Not a review board that don't have any power, but real power in our community. And that's what it's going to take. And until then, we will continue to see violence in our community. Because anytime you have crime, the worst thing that you can do to humanity is poverty. And when you have a community as power restricting as our communities are, no matter where you are, in St. Louis, in Chicago, or whatever, that's where you find after you see the worst crimes at. So that's why I wanted to speak on horizontal violence and say that I see that the only solution is for black community control of the police. That we have to understand that it really don't matter who killed your loved ones. We get the same results, no justice.
Yeah, that's right.
The whole road.
That's right. You're exactly right. Because they shooting us down every day. Huh? Every day. All right. We've got Reverend Fellows of the National Black Agenda, Chicago, the uncle of Rekia Boyd. Why don't you come on up?
That was killed by an off-duty police.
Killed by an off-duty police officer. And Reverend Fellows.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, sisters. Thank you for the message. It's an honor to be here. My brother Cam, always here, bringing the message to the beach. An honor to you, brother, for always bringing the truth. on the ground. And my name is Regan Fellows.
Regan.
Yes, okay.
Yes, sir.
And I'm the uncle of Rakia Boyd, who was shot 4 years ago by off-duty officer Detective Selby, who was a Latino brother. And I'm also the founder of the National Black Agenda Consortium, where I've been blessed to have every black agenda since the 1800s. I've read all of them, and we came up with an organization not to reinvent the wheel, but add some spokes to the wheel where we are now. So the 72, the 82, the Tabitha Smiley. So we've convened a lot of great minds here in Chicago. Brother Cam, reparations, and a lot of scholars to bring it up to date and make it to the technology so we can be the vehicle to drive the conversation.
Yes,
Right.
So that's working good. And, but it's all going to be quick. I just want to talk about the concept of the police situation we're in and no justice at any level. Rakia was a nice young girl. I'm an uncle through two of my children with her sister. She lived with me for about a year at one time. Real nice. She was trying to get on track. No trouble, just trying to get on track in school. She always said, Brother Regan, I'm trying to get back in school. So I always help. We last took her to Job Corps over on the west side. Kesley dropped off there about a year before she got killed. And she had some trouble. She loved the place, but she had a little trouble. A couple of girls there and left. But it was something that she was about to get on track with. And so at the time, she lived in Dalton when this incident took place. She was on 15th and Albany on the west side of Chicago, about 1 o'clock in the morning. Her and some, we come outside. We don't burn air conditioning late night. We come outside. We outside people.
That's right.
So Dante lived on the corner, known to be drunk, Latino office, calling people niggas and everything else. So we had a pattern of racism.
Yeah.
And so that particular night, they were outside. And the night before, after we did the research, he was said, what I gotta do, kill one of you niggas to get y'all out from running my house. So, so it's premeditated. That's some of the stuff that people don't know.
Right.
He had already said, I need to kill a nigga over here. Right. The conversation we had from the ground. Allegedly, that's what was taking place. So we did our groundwork. There was a young man standing in the alley, and he was on his phone. And he come down a one-way street. Officer on the north side shot his dog for shooting or eating another dog. And they fired him indefinitely, and Rakia's perpetrator worked the whole time.
God, man.
And got paid. And I called Mary Mitchell and said, listen, she's the newspaper.
Right.
Is the black sister life worth more than a dog?
Woo! Come on, man.
And she printed that. So I began to organize. Another thing that's different, because of, and this is not bragging, because of who I am spiritually, I am an organizer here.
Yes, sir.
People do know me. They respect me.
Yes.
She's on the west side of Chicago. She lives in the suburb. She's a light-skinned, pretty young girl. Boom, boom, boom. All the things that fit. If she dies, she's just another sister dead on the west side. Because we don't get out like that. We don't, we tear it up. She ain't from around my house. We don't get out.
Right.
That's just how they do. I worked 15 years on the west side. So her embracement of the moment was my relationship for working 15 years on the west side and working the whole city.
Yes.
So we put almost 1,000 people in the street and shut the police stations down on the west side.
Yes, sir.
Organized by a lot of brothers and sisters from the streets. And based on my relationship that I've always developed to keep my integrity, they came out. But the interesting thing about it, I organized the movement, and I'm the family organizer. They bring her brother up to the next level, which I helped him too. But they begin to take on something that they had nothing to do with, that they don't know nothing about. So he's been speaking and going across the country speaking. They've gotten paid for that. They paid out $4.5 million of that money. And I pretty much didn't get none of it, and I organized the movement. But that's spiritual piece of witness stuff happening. But I say that and how we get out with people.
Yes, sir.
Rakia got no justice. She has a tombstone this big. We don't have a foundation that I know of in her name. So the officer got let go of 5 counts. And I'll close up. 5 counts. And they let him walk away free. The brother was on his phone, so they know he didn't pull it. There was no weapons, no drugs. So they couldn't taint her name because the relationship. So she was prime person for God to say, all right, here one, what y'all gonna do, black people?
Right.
What we're going to do. And so we responded to that, and the court come back not guilty. Nobody's really at the courtroom. His trial competing. St. Louis had just went up. Her trial, we should have been there 500 deep, saying if y'all don't find him guilty, it's on like St. Louis.
That's right. That's right.
Just the concept, perception.
Right. That's right.
Nobody outside. Courtroom closed. Small courtroom. The numbers were not there. So Rakia, he goes back to work the whole time. He's getting ready to get fired this year. And he retires the day before and get full pension. We got to rethink this game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Full pension retirement. And so now we're back to passing our clothes in honor of Rakia Board. Rakia Board ain't got nothing to do with no clothes.
That's right, brother.
Got nothing to do with no clothes being handed out.
Right.
We supposed to be getting a scholarship fund to resurrect any young girl that had the dream Rakia had and help her go and pursue her dream economically, socially, and wrap around. If that ain't the mission, ain't no clothes gonna work. But if you're not an activist in the movement, you don't know how to act.
Right. Right.
So, but I want to say that in closing, we got to rethink this movement. Rakia is just, she died and he walked away scot-free. The Black Lawyers Association are downtown now. They're in town. Most people don't know they're here. And our organization should be there talking to the black lawyers. What's y'all position on this?
Yeah, how about that?
We sent you to college. What y'all gonna do about it? Everything being violated, Constitution.
Right.
What you gonna do as a black lawyer? We have to hold them accountable.
Yes, sir.
Last but not least, Dante Salvi. Dante, the young one, they got killed, the young man, 16 shots in a cover-up.
Right.
That's my former pastor's nephew. I was with him, we organized.
McDonald.
McDonald. My pastor hired an FBI agent to get the evidence before. That's why I was caught up. If he hadn't did that, it would have been a lost case, but he went and he got some people on the right away. And so the FBI had it for a while to do what they had to do. But that cover-up, 16 shots in the cover-up, leads to this point, and I'll be closing briefly. And thank you for this time. I didn't mean to take up that much time.
Go ahead, brother.
But I want to give you some things that we need to be wise on. The first trial he had, hearing, we went from 1 million people. I'm also part of Justice Zealous with the Minister Farrakhan, boycott on Friday and down with Santa Claus up with Christmas. I'm down with Santa Claus up with Christ. We boycotted and shut down the whole Magnificent Mile. Black Lives Matter, everybody matter, whoever mattered, we shut it down. With his first court hearing, there was about 300 cameras and not really no black people. And he walked out of jail with a low bond. We should have been there. We got to rethink this move. The second court hearing, 25 people were there. Now remember, we're going from 1 million people in the streets to 25 people in the courtroom holding justice accountable. We look like we're insane. We got to rethink this movement. He had the next court day, 25, 30. I sent an email blitz and a Facebook blitz telling everybody to come to the meeting. The next court day, we down 12. The last one I went to 2 weeks ago, I wake up, I stopped going because people weren't moving, and then, I disconnected because they perpetrating the movement. So I finally go down to the next one. I stand down there in the hallway, and he comes down the hallway. He's saying they have death threats. His father, the officer that killed, shot him, and his lawyer, they come down, they're clean, suited up, booted up, with no black people following them, no black people heckling, no black people coming out the courtroom, walking to his car video. How do we go from Black Lives Matter, 16 shots in the cover-up, we all in the streets, Cam, blowed up, humping Facebook, and ain't nobody at the courtroom to hold the lawyer accountable, the judge accountable, the prosecutor accountable, or the nation accountable for shooting this boy. It's perpetrating.
Yeah.
We faking on this movement. We faking. It ain't got nothing to do with no 16 shots. People are getting paid.
Right.
And you got to really think the psychotic mind that we in with PTSD, post-traumatic slavery syndrome, for nobody to be at the courtroom on justice for this man who's on TV with an immaterial 16 shots and ain't nobody in the room.
Wow.
Now I get home and I'm close. I get home and I say, well, maybe I'm missing something. I'm just, it just don't seem right that ain't nobody here protesting this man or threatening him.
Yeah.
Because if you do that to a young boy, it's supposed to be some soldiers supposed to up you. Don't you come outside? Don't you come outside?
Right.
You better fight. You say you've been threatened. You need. And to back up, the second hearing, we had two of the nieces fired. They jumped on the officer, get to the car, kicked the car. The sisters, no brothers.
Right. Wow.
I was there.
Swinging on them, kicking them, going at them.
Okay.
Brother, and so we were there posted up. But my point is, he should not be able to walk in and out of court without a thought that something might happen. We ain't gonna do nothing, maybe, but that's have perception around here sometimes.
Right.
A little scared.
Come on, man.
So I'm trying to figure out how we get here. So I want to let you know in Chicago, if it is a movement on police brutality like that, I don't know how it's going, because I'm telling you what I was.
Right.
If this boy 16 shot in national news and we're not in the courtroom to hold him justice, what's all this other stuff going on?
Yeah.
That's right, brother.
It's perpetrating. And I'm an organizer. I'm clear
Right.
how this go. So there's nobody in the courtroom. The Black Lawyers Association, it's not against them, but the Black Lawyers Association is here today. And the FBI sister is here on the investigation. So the key is, everybody write this down, Title VI of the Civil Rights Bill of 1964 is the bill for affirmative action that any quarter dime tied to federal government, you stop contracts because blacks are supposed to get the majority of it. Well, you can't, in Texas, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, about 30, 40 years ago, the NAACP filed a complaint against the police department because you can't take the federal money and kill your people with the money. So they stopped the money from the police department. So if you stop the money, it's a different conversation because you don't get a new van, you don't get a new vest, you don't get that pistol thing, and then Pookie them got that new stuff. So you don't shoot it fast when your gun is small. So it starts the conversation, don't it? So until you stop that money from these people, we're going to keep getting what we get. We're going to keep getting what we get. So with that is love. I appreciate it. My name is Brother Reba Fellows, and it's an honor to be here. And anything I can do to be of service, blessings.
Yes, sir.
The whole road.
My name is Taylor. I've lived in Chicago for the past 8 years, and I've worked in a charter school in the city for the past 5 years. The first few years I lived in the city, I struggled to take care of myself because I was slaving away at a Starbucks, which, I had to force myself to smile at rich, white, Lincoln Park people just to barely be able to afford food, to pay my bills. I got a second job and then a third job. I borrowed money from my family. I tutored on the side just to stay afloat. When I accepted my current position as a learning assistant, I was thrilled to find myself in a position to help kids who look like me discover some kind of love for education. I was excited to watch them grow and know that I would have a positive and a lasting effect on hundreds of kids. I chose to work at a charter school because I thought I could avoid some of the corruption that infamously overshadows this city's public school system. I thought the model that they touted showed promise because it focused on teaching children based off research into how children actually learn. It integrated technology into the curriculum, encouraged kids to have fun as they learn to create better connections with their surroundings, and to apply their knowledge to the innovation of solutions to help their neighborhoods. They preach social justice and practice a community restoration-based discipline system in conjunction with guided breathing exercises intended to encourage students to reflect on their actions as a response to their emotions. They resolved their differences in conflict resolution meetings that taught them how to express themselves in a direct and meaningful way. Even with all these positive things I saw happening at the school, I was troubled by something I thought was way more profound. The majority of teachers and administration was white. First-year teachers who had never encountered black children, let alone teach them. They continued to mispronounce their students' black names well into the second semester. They were unsympathetic to their students' tragic lives. And worse, they didn't inherently think that their students could succeed. They lowered their expectations of these black students' work and behavior while maintaining high expectations for the Latino and white students that made up the vast minority of students in the school. I've seen teachers whisper lessons to students that they have put in the front of the classroom while letting kids behind them act however they want, depriving them of the information and knowledge they need to succeed in that class. I've seen an administrator mock a special needs student behind their back and laugh about it to a nearby teacher. When I confronted these people about their behavior, they claimed it was either best practice or they denied the accusation and claimed offense at having been implicated in the first place. Obviously, a school can't succeed if their students aren't learning. The students' test scores started to suffer, staff and administration started turning over faster and faster. We got put on a list of schools that were slated to close. The board stepped in, gave us impossible goals to meet, and threatened us to close. This year, we have a new CEO and an all-new school administration. Gone are the days of making a student's voice heard and respected. Our students are now subject to immediate infractions for every and any misstep. This school year alone, so early into the year, we've already collectively given thousands of infractions, mostly for uniform violations. They rack up in and out of school suspensions for these infractions. Each and every infraction and each and every suspension goes into their permanent record. Even if a student were to transfer schools, their new teachers have access to all these lists of infractions, and they can judge them before they even meet them. We've had more fights break out in these past 7 weeks since school has started than ever before. I tell you all this to emphasize that the issues we experience within the school system are not committed to the public sector. Any school, public or charter, that is run by or answers to white people will automatically devalue your child's education. They'll sell your student out to the highest bidder without a shred of guilt. They will take money away from your child's education and buy themselves a new Lexus. They will give your students a second-rate education by second-rate racist teachers and then blame you and your child for their lack of motivation. After all is said and done, they hand them over to the police to throw them into the prison system once they leave the school system uneducated, uninspired, and completely unprepared for the world. They may not be prepared to go to college or to find a job, but they are well trained for the prison system. They already know how to wear a uniform, how to live without freedoms, and how to follow orders without response. They already know how it feels to be denied an opportunity to make amends. They already feel like they're worthless because their infraction lists tell them so. They think they're stupid because their IEPs tell them they can't learn and they can't control themselves. I joined in PEDM, which is part of the Black is Back coalition, because I cannot sit idly by and watch my kids, the kids I give my all to day in and day out, become crushed by a system that roots for and actively participates in their destruction. Those kids are our next generation. They are passionately hungry for a change and disappointed by the inactivity of their supposed role models. We have to step up and help them make the changes that need to be made. We need to show them that we can take charge of their education and change how they're treated in the classroom. We cannot do this without Black community control of the education system. We have to fight for that control. We must demand that Black community control of education and be willing to do whatever it takes to obtain that control, because our kids need it and they deserve it. They need us. Now more than ever, they need to see that we are winning.
She said it. She said it. You know, we need to take care of our own, especially when they're young, little, coming up. You know, in fact, Black is back. That's why we're talking about self-determination, because this whole system is brutal, okay? And it speaks to everything that we do in this life. You know, like when I'm on the train and going here and there, I'll see these. First of all, you have to retrain your mind in order to look at this system and see what it is. So I look at all the advertisements that are on the train. What are they advertising? You know, one of the things that they advertise most, if you'll ever check it out, you're on public transportation, is education. Because they want to form in your mind, they want to miseducate you constantly with all their different schools and everything else. All right, next up is our brother Kabula Mutombo, and he will be reading from the National Black Politcal Agenda Declaration and the 19 points. Come on up here, brother. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Everybody in your packets, you should be able to find this document. It's the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination Declaration. I'm going to read the declaration and then just the title of the 19 points. The declaration says, we're at a critical moment in our history is upon us. In addition to the traditional centuries-long destitution and political repression that has characterized our existence and distorted virtually all our intracommunal relationships within the U.S., there is now an escalation of police and other white violence directed at our people that demands a coherent response. The entire world is in a state of turmoil. The vast majority of the world's population that experiences poverty and cruelty as normal features of life is in a state of rebellion. Because the world capitalist system owes its existence to the enslavement of our people and colonial domination of much of the world, capitalism rests uneasily on a fault line of oppression. The historical oppression of our people stems from this cruel fact of history. Like most peoples of the world, we trace our current conditions of existence to the birth of the capitalist system at the expense of our happiness and human and material resources. We recognize the escalation of terror against black people that includes state and popular attacks and police and civilian murder. We understand that the prominent expressions of white nationalism revealed through the electoral process to select the new president of the United States are due to the growth of resistance among oppressed and populations of the world and within the U.S. We recognize that the apparent social peace within the U.S. over the past 35 years or so has been illusory, a product of the successful, brutal assault by the U.S. government on the struggle of black people for justice and power in the 1960s. Our movement was obstructed by state-imposed repression that included the political murders of important leaders from our community.
That's right.
Among these leaders were Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, and others. The false sense of social peace during this past period also depended on the disruption of the then developing black agenda that demanded peace, democracy, an end to poverty, political oppression, and the acquisition of black power. The U.S. government and its minions of appointed or anointed black leaders have contributed to a defeatist outlook among our people that reduces our struggle to vain attempts to influence the two major U.S. ruling parties, to include the interests and aspirations of our people in the otherwise ruthless, terror-inducing imperialist agenda they normally represent. The U.S. government's assault on our independent movement for black political power has created a worldview that promotes the U.S. electoral process as the only viable means of forging and pursuing an agenda favorable to our interests. The Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparation does not believe that our future should be in the hands of any institution that does not have its origins within our community and has not been forged through the struggles of our people. Black people, therefore, are gathering to consolidate our national black political agenda for self-determination. With our national black political agenda for self-determination, we claim responsibility for our own future, independent of the Democratic and Republican parties or any other organization or institution external to our community. We are fully aware of the long history of betrayal of our people by both parties and refuse to submit our destiny to a slavish dependency on either of them. As conscious women and men, we are declaring our intent to guarantee a future for our children and generations to come by, creating an independent agenda for the progress of our people. We know that this agenda is not all-encompassing. It cannot be. Our movement is in a developing stage, having been re-energized most recently by the August 9, 2014 uprising of poor, working-class young people on Canfield Drive in Ferguson, Missouri, after the police murder of 18-year-old Mike Brown. We recognize that our National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination is in contention with the decisions made for us by the rulers of the U.S., their servants in our midst, and other African people who may have legitimate disagreements with our views. But we cannot wait. History will not permit hesitation at this critical juncture. Our people demand participation in creating the future that awaits us. This development in our National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination is not an attempt to create a new political party or organization. The Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations is a coalition in the truest sense of the word. We are an organization of organizations and individuals who have chosen to unite around a common set of principles for self-determination and a conscious struggle against world imperialism. We have seen the defeat of previous attempts to create a black agenda by prematurely creating new political formations before basic principles in organizational relationships were firmly established that required first loyalty to our people rather than to the Democratic Party. We call on all organizations currently not affiliated with the Black is Back Coalition to join us as part of a process that will extend the political influence of all our movements and organizations while preserving the independence of each. The Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations does not attempt to function as a substitute for any existing organization. We simply provide a forum, a space for the open. We can see the world created by slavery and colonialism collapsing before our very eyes. The decline of the imperialist white power is visible for the world to see and experience. Not only are the heroic peoples of the Middle East, South America, and Asia engaging in imperialism and heated battles for control of their sovereignty and resources, so also are people throughout Africa, Haiti, the various other places in the world, including Europe. The struggle against colonialism has breached the citadels of Europe and the U.S. White people in the U.S. White people of Europe, of France and Belgium, for example, are living lives with the kind of insecurity that is common in the colonial territories of Africa and the Middle East, from which Europe has extorted lives and resources for centuries. We are taking up the task of developing our National Black Agenda for Self-Determination while in the throes of a maturing resistance that is primarily a response to open police murder of African men, women, and children. In Dallas, Texas, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the actions of Mika X. Johnson and Gavin Cosmo Long represent the clearest movement toward an armed response to African murders by the U.S. domestic military occupation forces since 1972, when Mark Essex initiated an attack on the New Orleans Police Department. Like Essex, Johnson and Long briefly exposed the vulnerability and incompetence of U.S. police forces.
It can be a collaboration to put it on the ground at another level of, confirmation, because our people come in certain sectors. Mm-hmm. Some can get it here, some get it here. So we have to be able to translate it and what they say, control the message to who it's going to and bring them in. So the bottom line is I'd love to see the National Black Agenda Consortium be able to collaborate with you guys on how we move these agendas. As I say, we created a vehicle, we wasn't a know-it-all, so that we can continue the conversation from the table to the people.
Uhura, I'm going to let Cam talk about that, but I want to say that that's a great question because that's why we're here. That's a lot of what we have in this convention for and the way forward and what we asking other organizations to join this coalition and unite with this document. But Cam is on the steering committee and I'm going to let him answer.
That's really what the Black is Back Coalition is really for, as our sister said, is that, we're a coalition of organizations who understand that freedom has not arrived. And we're not going to agree on everything, but we operate under the principles of operational unity. Those things that we do agree on, we move forward. So we agree that there needs to be a national black agenda for our people. moving us forward. I was at the National Conference of Black Lawyers Convention yesterday. It's held today and tomorrow. And there was a brother who was speaking, I don't know his name, but he mentioned the Black is Back Coalition and what we're going to be doing on November 5th. But he also mentioned that there is a document that they produced and they passed it out. I don't know who produced it, but it's a freedom document, which is open for debate. And he also cited the Movement for Black Lives policy piece, that these two documents, we should get the national leadership from around the country to come together and debate these two documents and present a unified document. I think that those shouldn't be the only two documents. There's your document. There's certainly this document. But the point is, we have to bring all of these documents. There's some historical documents that also had to come into play. Like you said, you have all of the National Black Political Agenda since 1972. So we have to get in the room, determine that as African people, continental-wide, that we're going to get in the room, the leadership who has these documents, we're going to get in the room and say, this is a final document, and just move forward with it. But certainly, those of us in the Black is Back Coalition, who I think at some point we'll talk about why we were formed, who understood that in 2008, with the election of a black president, the black left, the revolutionary contingent in this country, black folks said, we're going to give capitalism a pass.
Right.
And those of us said, no, we're not going to give capitalism a pass because we got a black leader in charge of capitalism.
Right.
And so we formed the coalition. And so we've been true to this message of self-determination since 2008, since our formation. And so certainly any policy that comes forward has to be viewed through the lens of this coalition. But we welcome all efforts at putting together a national policy or national plan.
No problem.
Yeah, I unite, and that's why we're here today. Is that we want to not only plead with individuals but organizations, people that really understand that we cannot be bamboozled anymore, and understand that it is time to unite. It's time, and on some real truths. As I forgot, Reverend, I described it.
Brother Fellows.
Brother Fellows, I got it. Brother Fellows, and what he was saying is that, it's so true, and I unite with a lot of what you were saying about, we see that our people have been really bamboozled by the money, and we're dealing with colonized people. And I'm not saying don't take the money, I'm just saying don't let the money change, your opinion. And I'm not even blaming the families, because I understand when you haven't had something. And I can't believe that a family didn't love their child. But I just think that it's so easy when you colonize to just be bamboozled. Yeah. And we have to be able to criticize, criticize the behaviors and really, in a loving way. Because I think criticism is a form of love. Yes. When you're able to look at your brother and say, you're not right, because you don't want to see him continue to go down the wrong road. And so I just think that I unite with what you were saying, and working with a lot of different families and seeing this whole thing that they have been bit, because all the organizations come and do all these different things, but then the agenda changed. And like Brother Cam Howard said, that this coalition was formed in 2008, and they have not ever wavered or changed zones or roads. And just like you were saying, that y'all have been an organization that have been taking all these political documents and things like that and have not wavered. And you see the movement have been hijacked. Mm-hmm. And so we need a coalition, we need a body of people to come under and put their, egos and all these things to the side and say that we must be free. Now, I might not, I might hug rocks, you pray to Jesus, whatever it is. But one thing that we understand, that we colonize, we African people, and we need to have self-determination, and that's what we unite on. Now, you can rub the hot rocks and I'll, serve Jesus, whatever. They don't, we can't let them things separate us, but we can unite that we have to be self-determined. Right. And so, I seen another question. Was it you, brother?
No, I didn't have a question.
You didn't have a question? Was it you, sis? You read the document.
I read it. I didn't have any questions.
You don't have any questions? Nobody else? Any questions on the 19 points?
I wanted to put something on the table with regards to the police brutality piece.
It's real crucial. We pay taxes to the police to protect us.
Yeah.
Then they go shoot our loved ones. Then we organize to sue the police that we protect. Then we win the case. Then we pay it back in taxes. That's insanity.
That's
Yes,
crazy.
it is, and that's what happens.
So if that don't be addressed in the overall picture, we'll be chasing ourselves. I don't pay you to shoot me, then pay you because I protested you to give you the money back from my taxes. I protested. Them people look at us like we crazy.
We are.
So I just want to put that on the table.
Wow.
It doesn't make sense.
I would like to take it a step further. And then after all of that, I don't need the mic. But after all of that is said and done, you're going to go to the same government that clearly doesn't care about you,
That's
wasn't
right.
fostered for you, like they're going to help you, and then demand anything. I don't understand.
You're right.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
and so, you know, I'm trying to, because it's a coalition. And so the coalition, like I said, is a lot of different organizations. Now, I'm part of the PEDUM, a revolutionary organization, where I feel that the only solution is revolution, right? But we understand that we have to meet our people at a political door. Everybody's not there. You know, and that's just the bottom line. But we have to be able to educate our people. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the campaigns, everything that we do, like Black community control of the police, it's really it's a democratic request, but it has so many, it's a revolutionary request at the same time, because we're saying that Black people have to have the power over police. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is, I mean, that's a democratic request. They say, if I'm paying taxes, why can't I say who's going to be a police officer? But when you win the people to this position of understanding that they need power, that's pushing revolution, because they're going to make that happen by any means necessary.
No.
You know, they're going to make that happen by any means necessary. But you have to first show people that they need power, because they don't understand that they don't have it.
They do understand that. They're overly aware of it. That's why there's all these symptoms in our community that are showing that they're overly aware of it. We talk about Black on Black crimes and different things like that. That is Black people taking their power back. They're directing it in the wrong way because they know consciously and subconsciously that you cannot fight against what is got you completely wrapped up and entangled in a million webs that's been weaved.
Well, I would say with even losing my brothers, I didn't. To be completely honest, I didn't understand. When Mike Brown was murdered in the street and I started going out in the community, I knew something was wrong, but I never heard the word colonialism. It's so many people that I meet, because I go all over. I just came back from Kansas City. I go all over. It's so many people that don't know what that word, haven't heard that before.
Oh,
They never heard of African short genocide. I just want to, and I'll get to you. They haven't heard of genocide. They don't know that this is genocide, that we experiencing genocide. I'm protesting for $15 or $10 an hour. It just changed to be for, include white people. And then here come the white left and the whole, same gender loving white women wanting to say, well, we feminists and, Black men oppressing you. And then it turned into that. Then we rose up because Mike Brown was killed and he was just Black. It wouldn't have anything to do with gender. Nobody wasn't talking. African women was outraged because Mike Brown's come from our womb, and this is our man. We one people. This is a Black issue. But then all these people come in and then they hijack the movement. So I didn't really trust anybody. I was frustrated with the church. You know what I'm saying? Because we prayed at the church. Now we coming into Ferguson, we had to pray again. I don't get it. So it was like, I think it's a time and place to do everything, and why are we doing it now? So I was really, really, really skeptic of everything, and Darren Seals was too. And if anybody knew Darren, you have had a debate with him, because you could be right. You could be saying, you looking up at the sky and see that it's blue. And Darren was saying, well, how you know it's blue though? And that's just the type of person he was. And Darren was killed. And a lot of people don't know that Darren is the 6th person that was shot in the head and car set on fire in Ferguson.
That's right.
Every single person that have been found like this were somebody that was out in Ferguson protesting. beyond the 6 people that was found in cars, shot in the head, burnt up, last year around the same time, it was over, I don't have the exact number, so I don't want to put nothing out there that I can't back up, but a number of sisters that were supposedly, what they did on Channel 2 is have Looters Wednesday, when white people could look at the footage of the stores that was being looted and identify the people. So they were saying, call in, and it might be the people who work for you and stuff. And these girls were identified on the looters thing, and their bodies was found in vacant buildings, dead. Nobody was looking for nobody been talking about this, but we rigged it in the Burning Spirit, and that's what makes that paper so significant, is because it tells stories that nobody else will tell. That's right. And you know, and we reached out to these families and worked with them. And the difference between me and Dern is I had joined the Huru. I finally said, okay, I'm gonna just get this 1 year. I'm gonna just really see like what this is. And Dern, I try to get him. He participated in the Black Grand Jury, and I try to get him to come to a lot of different things, but he was still very skeptic. And because he didn't really know, like you said, young people don't really know a lot about it and don't have the humbleness of sitting underneath the foot of somebody to really pour into us so we can be able to know what we're seeing. Really knowing what it is. And my brother, somebody called him, and he was laying in his bed with his girlfriend and told him it's about organizing work. This is somebody he knew, because he would not get up out his bed for somebody he didn't know. And that's the last we heard of Dern. That's the last we heard of Dern. They killed him. And they've been killing us. And that's why it's so important to be, because, not saying that they won't kill me, because what I say and what I do, I mean from the pits of my heart. And I want to see freedom. And I feel like as a mother of 2 young African girls that I haven't did nothing if I don't fight for their freedom, or at least give them a blueprint of what that looks like. That's right. And that's the honest God truth, and that's my heart. But I have an organization that teach me what I'm looking at when I'm talking to it. Right. So when you talking, I hear you, but I'm summing it up and knowing exactly where you're coming from because of the analysis of my chairman. To have time to look at the 60s and look at what was happening, you know, and that's so important. So now I understand, and I know I'm getting a little bit off the coalition, but we have a thing in the Huru movement, democratic centralism, which is that it's always a leader and followers. Okay, and then it's a time where you can criticize, but when we in the midst of the field, and I say, I'm the leader, and I say, let's go left, you don't be like, no, but why are we going left, though? Right. I don't think we should go left. Right. I think you're going to go to the left, because you understand we got to survive, right? And then once we go left, you say, yo, I think that was an error. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we should have went left. And then we talk about it, we struggle, we see it, and then we going to go, the next time we might move differently. But that's so important to understand the strategy of war, and understand the only way you're going to do that is in structure, or something that's real. Right. Something that's real. That's right. Not no play. Because this is, 600 years. Right. Where African women wombs and steel oil are just factories of slaves. Because everything that comes from my womb is a slave. Ooh. Until I change it. And so until we really grasp the genocide, then we can struggle and fight, because me and my mama, we can go at it. But when we walk out the door, that's my mama, and I'm her child, and we going to go to war together. That's right. So we can battle all day long in her. But when we walk out these doors, we have to be one body. And it has to be something real, not on anything. Right. And so that's why the Black is Back Coalition is so important, because it's a way for a whole bunch of different organizations, a whole bunch of different people come together. And it's not just what the Huru movement say, or what the next movement say, it's what the collective want. Right. And so that's why it's so important. And what happened to Dern, and it's so funny to me, some of the people that he went and ran the streets with, what are they doing?
We got to stick together, no matter what. It's one thing to say we are a movement, but then, like you said, as soon as we go outside these doors, ain't nobody with the move. I've seen with my own eyes through experience. It's a lot of people out here, not within our branch, it's just overall in the Black community. They preach and teach this, that, and the third, but then when they go out there in the community, they bad-mouthing their own kids, own friends. It's just no unity, and it's very embarrassing, because how we gonna fight the white devil if we killing and fighting ourselves? It's ignorant.
So I think I just wanted to, I appreciate every comment, but I just wanted to, go ahead and move the agenda if there's no more questions. I really appreciate the conversation. It's necessary. I really appreciate you and your input, and I really encourage every person here to really try to get to DC. So where we not just here, like we didn't have this just in St. Louis, in Chicago, but we have them all over. Right now, we have them in various cities. So we come together in DC, November the 5th and the 6th, and all the different areas. Because in St. Louis, it was issues raised where people was like, okay, well, I don't really think this is worded right. I think we should word it this. Or some people said, okay, I heard these 19 points, but how are we going to make this a reality? What's the first step? You know what I'm saying? Okay, we wrote it on paper, but what does that mean? That's a great question. Right. Ain't nobody shying away from it. We need to have the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Not just have a conversation, but actually move forward. Right. You know what I'm saying? Move forward. So all these different things will be handled in DC.
Just a suggestion. The Million Man March was the first holiday after the Marcus Garvey holiday that we took. And the way we begin with all these agendas, before the agendas, and that family fighting on the block, is there has to be a day of atonement, reconciliation. I'm sorry, forgive you, fasting and praying. Until that happens, there's too many egos in the game. So this is the 21st anniversary of the Million Man March, that we should be fasting, praying, calling friends, say I'm sorry, apologize. It should be nothing but a sea of love across this country on oppressed people.
Public policy through the government, and more importantly through our own hands, but us also working to make sure that this government engages people out from the center in a just manner. Peace, we're against all manners of imperialist wars. So, and the major imperialist war we're against is that one that's against people of African descent in this country, against black people. But we're against all imperialist wars of this country. As we know, it's resource rape. It is depriving people around the planet of the right to self-determination and freedom and liberty and dignity. And finally, it is a coalition for reparations. We understand that what is going on in the African world, whether it's on the continent or in the diaspora, here in America, we find people of African descent catching hell everywhere. And we understand that the single incident that is common to all African people, no matter where we are, is the imposition of the motherland from European invasion and theft of African people, the underdevelopment of the continent, the enslavement of African people once they shipped them to these American shores, whether it's in the South America, Central America, the islands, or here in North America, and the continued deprivation of our, denial of our humanity leading on up to today. And so we understand that a people who have been injured in the manner that we have been injured are due repair. Yes, right. We're due repair not only because international structures and international law demand that when a nation or a state has been found guilty of crimes against humanity, that they're obligated to repair the people, but we know that as our ancestors demand that we be repaired. Our ancestors demand from us that we continue the struggle to be repaired from the harms that they've endured for centuries in a whole lot of different ways. The police violence that we're seeing, the murdering of our sons and daughters, well, this is not new. Right. And it's always happened. In fact, it happened when the first European came to the African shore. There was murder in order to get Africans on those ships. That's right. It wasn't no easy process. It was a war. Right. And so it's a continuation And so every generation of Africans who've lived since that first encounter of Europeans demands that we fight for repair. And one of the sisters who was here earlier says, how are you going to, demand something from the people who did you wrong and expect to get something from them? Well, she don't understand the concept of demand. A demand is not a request.
Right.
It's a statement of what you intend to receive, or there will be consequences.
Right.
And so if you do not make a demand, a person or people can think who harmed you that it's okay.
Right.
And that has been the condition of our relationship with white America, is that we have not made the demands.
Right.
So they think it's okay to continue to kill our young people, to continue to deny our children a rightful education, to continue to abuse us and harm us in the way that they have, and continue to prolong the harms that have done that we are passing down generationally in our own homes, because we haven't fought, we haven't taught, we haven't struggled in our homes to stop the continuation of the abuse that we're passing down generationally. And so we make the demand, the Black is Back Coalition makes the demand for reparations. And as I stated earlier, it's backed on international law. In 2001, there was a World Conference Against Racism where the Pan-African leaders in the diaspora, beginning in New York, the bold brothers and sisters of the December 12th movement went down to Chile in 2000 in preparation of this World Conference Against Racism, and told our brothers and sisters in South America where the preparatory conference was held that we need specific language in the document that's to go into the World Conference, and that language speaks to all people of African descent. Because we want to be on one page. We don't want to all go to the World Conference with all of our different issues. We're fighting for this and we're fighting for that in South in Colombia. We're fighting for this in Ghana. We're fighting for this in Canada. As black people, we're fighting for this in Jamaica. No, we as black people, we have three basic issues that we want to address as a whole. And that was one, that slavery, colonialism, apartheid were crimes against humanity. And that the perpetrators of those crimes were enriched by those crimes, and all the victims, Africans on the continent and Africans in the diaspora, were victimized and injured by those crimes, and we still face those injuries today. The continent is underdeveloped. People of African descent all around the diaspora are disunited, are living on the bottom of every social category in their countries, and that there's an obligation to repair people, obligation on these criminals to repair the people who they've injured. And so the brothers and sisters in the South America, they heard us. And so they agreed that this was the language that bloc would take to the World Conference. And the brothers from the December 12th movement came back to America after that conference in Chile and began to organize brothers and sisters in the diaspora, specifically in America. And about 400 brothers and sisters went to Durban, South Africa, that World Conference, and they lobbied the heads of state at those conferences, specifically the African group, because the African group was the largest group. And at first the African group was like, oh, we kind of shaky. We don't want to say those crimes against humanity, what happened to us. But we had to convince them. And then they had to convince all the other brothers and all the other governments that were being represented there. And in the final analysis, they convinced them. And so it was, and the African group led the charge that these were crimes against humanity, that the injuries we suffer today is a direct result of those crimes, and there's an obligation on behalf of these European governments to pay. Coming out of that conference, which was a major victory, we didn't get reparations specifically put in that document, but it was alluded to. And coming out of that conference, we began to continue to work in the international realm, because Malcolm X told us, take our struggle internationally. Get the world on our side. And so that World Conference Against Racism was the beginning. And from that, we've had other victories. With the last major victory on the international level was the January 2016 visit here in America by the Working Group of Experts of People of African Descent. And that working group of experts and people of African descent of the United Nations came out of the work at the World Conference Against Racism. There would not have been a working group of experts and people of African descent if it wasn't for the Pan-African victory we gained at the World Conference Against Racism. And so when that working group of experts came to America and we, rallied our forces here in Chicago and DC and New York and Jackson, Mississippi, and the Black is Back Coalition, we did encampments, and the Uhuru movement, we did encampments in every city to highlight that we were on the ground. This is the people's response to the crimes that have been committed against us. It's not the government. You're going to hear from the government, but we want you to hear from the people.
Right.
And so when they concluded their visit, their preliminary report was that America owes reparations to people of African descent. And in September, last month, they issued their official document that says this government owes reparations to people of African descent. This is the United Nations. It is huge, but you don't see none of the news media carrying this issue. They carried it for the first day, but there has been no organized action around the fact that the global community of human rights, that it is authority on the so-called globe, on this earth that we live in, this authority on human rights, the United Nations Human Rights Commission stated that America owes people of African descent reparations. Major.
Yeah.
This was the indictment of this country that we've been fighting for.
Right.
And we got it. And it was because of the work that was specifically done here in Chicago. But we have to organize on how to make that document, make that indictment become a reality in the form of reparative justice. And so at the November 5th convention, as you see, one of the points is reparations. So we're going to focus heavily on reparations. In fact, we've organized a reparations road to the White House campaign, beginning here in Chicago in June. The Illinois House of Representatives passed a resolution calling for President Obama to create a slavery study commission before he leaves. The brother who introduced this legislation was inspired by our struggles with the working group of experts and people of African descent and their preliminary report that reparations is due to people of African descent. So all this is a connection of the work that began when Malcolm X charged us to take this issue to the world, to the international community. So this is a 50-year struggle.
Right.
You see, it's not just and the reparations movement began before enslavement ended.
Right.
During enslavement. So this is an ongoing struggle. But we have the potential right now to make it a reality for if not this generation, but definitely our children are going to get reparative resources to correct this whole issue that we're going, and on the top of the list is the ability to self-determine our own future.
Right, that's right.
And that's why how this ties into this convention. That's why people must come to this convention. And we must focus on this issue of reparations in addition to the other 18 demands that we're making on this government. Finally, I want to ask everybody to go to MakeObamaDoIt.com.
Did that, yeah.
It is our website for the Reparations Road to the White House campaign. We're attempting to organize buses coming from around the country. You can donate. People looking at this via the web, you can donate. If you're not able to make it, you can donate a bus seat. The bus seat is $70. Someone else can go in your stead. Or when it was first introduced, it's already established that there's a continued harm against brothers and sisters, not only of this millennial generation who are in their teens, but those that are unborn are going to experience the continued injury from that period. Because we carry that injury until there is a targeted action to repair it. And there's been no targeted action to repair those injuries. And so the National African American Reparations Commission made a commitment to revise H.R. 40. And so I was one of the writers, Dr. Ivor Carruthers, longtime warrior scholar, Dr. Joyce King, longtime warrior scholar in the African world, were the others who participated in the rewriting of H.R. 40. It is no longer a study bill. It is a remedy bill.
Right.
It begins with this point that African people are injured and we must be repaired. How does that remedy come about? So Congressman Conyers got a copy of this revised version. He accepted it with just a few revisions on a word here or there. It's based on an international law perspective on reparations, not what America thinks is reparations. And he's going to introduce it in January. So we got a lot to talk about reparations at the convention. Reparations is one of the single issues that encompasses all of our injuries, no matter what they are. And so it's very important that we make this demand on whoever comes into the White House. And we have to be clear that we're not coming with no sorry old pleas for a study. It's remedy or else.
Right.
Uhuru, reparations now, and see you in November in Washington, D.C., November 5th, 2016. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Black is back.
Uhuru.
Black is back.
Black is back.
I just want to really appreciate Cam. He always come and learn so much, and I just really appreciate all the work that he do for reparations. Really be everywhere, making sure that he's educating and really pushing forward for reparations, and really appreciate Cam Howard. And I also want to appreciate everybody that stayed to the end, and appreciate everybody for, staying with us. And, I know it was a long, kind of long program, but it was much needed. Everything was very important to allow people to be able to express themselves in this place, to really win people to understand that this is very significant, and we must but struggle hard to bring the maximum amount of people from every area to D.C. That is very important to use this platform. And I really want to salute Conrad Taylor. It was so amazing. It was really, really good. I really appreciate it. It brought me to tears. When we talk about the school system, it's not something that we can slide. It's a real issue. I have a 5 and a 3-year-old, and my daughter just began to go to school. And it breaks my heart that my 5-year-old hates to go to school. Like every morning when it's daytime, she's in tears. Because when she go to school, she's just having some real struggles at school. And, it haven't even been a whole school year, but the teacher already diagnosed her with all these different things. And so it breaks my heart, to send your kid to a school and that they not, being able to reach their full potential because they being picked up on for whatever reasons that might be, simply because she told her teacher, why are the brown kids saluting that flag? That's not their flag. The things that we teach our kids the truth, and then they being punished for it at school. So, I really appreciated having Taylor that have went behind enemy lines to work with our kids in the school system. And it's so important for us to have our own schools. So I just really appreciate everything. Dorothy Holmes for coming and really laying out, exactly what happened to her son. And we see, every time we hear these stories, they always so similar. They do the same thing. They hide the kid from the mother. It takes them a long time to be able to identify their bodies. It's the same, they don't even get a different strategy. They use the same little book that they use. So I just really think, that this was a great event. We see the need to continue to organize. This whole program and everything that everyone said was very, very, very important. And, we don't blame the people, we blame us. We say that we have to, struggle harder to put the word out. But nevertheless, I'm very hopeful that we are going to have a great convention.